appointments as stated.
You should be able to get in there.
Yep.
Oh, ooh, Marie jumped the gun.
We now have Marie Blankley as a mover. We have Councilmember Tucker as a seconder to approve the council selection for the board, commissions, and committee appointments. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously on a 7-0 vote. Okay, next item up. Please, once again, let me just go ahead and remind the community that we have vacancies on the Arts and Culture Commission, Community Neighborhood Revitalization, Housing Advisory Committee, Personnel Commission, and apparently also the Historic Heritage Committee as well now. So please let people know, and there are applications here in the chambers. Jimmy, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I have a brief report here considering the city's annual financial audit and comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year completed June 30th, 2018. I tend to remind people when we look at our total financial, we are a $350 million corporation in a lot of ways. I mean, we do provide services, but our assets and financial component makes us a very large company if you looked at us simply from a business standpoint. The reports are, we really have 3 reports, just 2 for you tonight. And the first is the financial audit. The second is the Gann report, and I'll explain that a little bit more. And lastly, the federal single audit, which we do not have completed yet, but we are under, we're not under state law to do that. That's a federal requirement, and this is the first time we've had to do it in several years since we exceeded $750,000 of federal expenditures. We'll bring that back to you probably most likely in February, but I'm very happy to tell you that we received an unmodified clean opinion for all of our audits. That's what we're looking for here. The auditor noted that there is a reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatements and that the city maintains adequate internal controls to protect from loss, theft, or misuse. I want to point out that that does not mean that it is not possible for us to have theft, loss, or misuse, but we have done everything administratively that we can to have a system in place that ensures that if we detect something that doesn't seem right, we address it. We have a record of making folks correct mistakes, and the auditors have determined that our program is adequate and gives us a clean opinion. We did have a small miscalculation in the Gann limit for next year, and I'll explain to you in a few seconds why it's really, for lack of a better word, is irrelevant. But I do want to point out that that was the one area that we will need to fix going next year. If you're curious to see this mathematically, packet page 231, which is page 17 of the CAFR, basically tells you the way you figure out how we are doing what our net position is we just really take our assets minus our liabilities, and that gives us our net position. So from fiscal year 17 to 18, that increased by $8.5 million. But that doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. It's just a statement of where we are on that place in time. And primarily the reason why we did increase by $8.5 million is we continue to see increases in property and sales taxes, and we continue to underspend the general fund budget. So that does show that we do increase our net position, but again, I'm not telling you that that's either a good or bad thing. That's just a statement of our financials. The total liabilities for the city continue to increase, and as we are all aware, it's primarily due to pension liabilities. And I think you're going to continue to see that over the next 3, 4, 5 years of audits, just primarily due to changes in how CalPERS is, amortizing things and how they're making their assumptions. The audited general fund reserve was approximately $25.6 million, and by your policy that you adopted last fiscal year, we only require 15.7. That does not mean that you are $10 million over. It just means for the audited portion, our assets in that area exceeded. But when we get to the budget, I'll give you a much better number and something that is really tangible for you to consider. The Gann limit. It was adopted in 1979 as a reaction to Prop 13. It is generally useless, for lack of a better word, because they determined that it was going to be tied to per capita instead of inflation. So our Gann limit for fiscal year 18 was 161 million. We only expended 42, so we're almost 120 million dollars under that statutory limit. Again, that's why I tend to use the word useless, because nobody is ever getting close to their Gann limit anytime soon. It's just an old state law that we still have to report for. And as I stated previously, we did have a minor math error on ours, but it did not affect us financially. The conclusion is that the city is compliant in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We have a culture of compliance, and we have received the GFOA award for excellence in financial reporting for the previous 4 years, and we did submit an application for 2018. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jimmy, for that report. It's wonderful that our net position is increased and that we underspend our budget. I just want the public to understand that financial statements are prepared in accordance with accounting principles that, for whatever reason that I certainly don't understand, do not require the reflection in the financial statements themselves, the unfunded liabilities. You have to go to the footnotes to see those. So while the audit report that we got is great and is the best that you can get, and it's all through no fault of the city, these unfunded liabilities that keep mounting completely take away all the benefits that would appear in the numbers. So just to be clear for the public who may still be up looking or may watch this later, our unfunded liabilities continue to mount, as do all cities. And that's the very thing that, caused the parent company of our local hospital to have to file bankruptcy. So nothing's rosy here, but our financial statements, as far as the city of Gilroy can go, is the best we can do. So I'm glad to see the numbers that are there, but I want to be clear with people that doesn't mean that we don't have liabilities in excess of our assets. We have liabilities in excess of our assets.
Okay. I do want to, Councilmember Tucker.
Thank you, Jimmy. And as one of the persons who pushed early on years ago to do a quarterly financial review, is there going to be this is the end of the year, will there be a time in the future to go over fund by fund, the enterprise funds by fund, to see the healthiness of each of those? That's what I like to see in the quarterly review. This part, I trust you guys. It says we got a CPA here, but I want to really look at more the funds, which ones are minus, which ones are flush, and those kinds of things. So in the future,
We'll return February 4th with the second half budget update,
okay.
and we'll do it fund by fund at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Tucker, Mayor and Council. For clarification, when you mean fund by fund, you're talking about in terms of fund balances or in cash on hand?
Yes,
or more?
fund
Okay.
balances, and also because I think I remember when Christina used to do it, it was like so much was expected to be utilized out of that, like the TIF impact. You had some expenditures on the books that needed to come out of that. So it was just a high level outline of this is what we have, this is what we need to take out of that, and then going forward,
And so just
kind of a summary.
balance, what's encumbered, and then what's the net?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
And that's all the funds, so impact funds, enterprise funds, stuff like that? Okay. I'm just trying to be clear. Okay. Anything else? Okay, Jimmy, is there anybody from the public that wants to speak on this item? Happy New Year, Bill, by the way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Just reacting to Councilmember Blankley's comments on the unfunded liabilities. You know, I've many times here have seen, you know, the financial presentations that talk about what expenditures are and what revenues are, but I don't think in any of the meetings I've been, you probably have seen it, but I've never seen a balance sheet presented. And when I start hearing about this unfunded liabilities, I really wonder, you know, what's the total asset and what's the total liability position of the city of Gilroy? And so when you go forward, that would, I think, for the public, be nice to see too. Thank you.
That's what I was saying. You have to go to the footnotes for that.
Okay. All right, so let's, we have received this report. Do we need any kind of motion, please? All right, can I get a motion? Councilmember Blankley, are you paying attention now? Can we vote on this, please? We have a motion by Councilmember Laurel Munoz, seconded by Councilmember Tovar. Please vote. Is it freezing up again? Okay, I think that passes unanimously on the 7.